We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Inside every mind exists a battlefield unseen, a place where thoughts strike without warning, where emotion demands control, where fear waits for hesitation. This is where lives are won or lost before a single action ever takes place. The Stoic stands here, unflinching, fully aware that the enemy is not the world, but the chaos within. To win the war in the mind is to command silence under noise, to act with precision under pressure, to remain unbroken when everything tries to fracture you. The mind obeys discipline, or it obeys destruction. The one who masters it becomes unstoppable. And in this video, we will learn to do just that. To win the war in our mind and conquer ourselves before the mind conquers us. After this lecture, you will have the tools to become unstoppable and the power to stay unbothered no matter what tests you. Let's begin. The mind is a battlefield more treacherous than any field of war. No sword is drawn, yet the casualties are endless. Doubt, fear, impulse, and distraction march through the corridors of thought like insurgents. Each seeks control, each demands attention, each promises relief. The Stoic stands within this field and understands the truth. The battle is not fought against the world, but within the confines of one's own perception. The mind can be an empire or a prison depending on who commands it. Every moment the Stoic faces the unseen. The mind produces endless signals, anxiety disguised as logic, fear disguised as caution, laziness disguised as rest. To the undisciplined, these whispers sound like reason. To the Stoic, they are noise. To win the war in the mind is to separate command from chaos, to see thought as matter to be shaped rather than law to be obeyed. This requires vigilance that does not sleep. It requires a constant audit of what enters the mind and what remains. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The untrained mind becomes a forge for suffering. It fabricates stories, amplifies insult, and magnifies pain. A single thought can build an empire of fear within seconds. The Stoic cuts through this illusion by reason and observation. Every emotion is interrogated. Every assumption is examined. Each thought is asked, does this serve control or chaos? The war in the mind is won through clarity, not conflict. Distraction is the enemy's favorite tactic. The world floods attention with noise, opinions, screens, urgency, validation, fear of missing out. The Stoic knows that every moment of attention given to what is outside is energy stolen from command within. The battlefield is littered with the fallen, who could not separate signal from noise. The disciplined mind withdraws its forces from external wars and reinforces its internal fortress. Control of attention is control of destiny. Impulse attacks in silence. It appears as instinct, reaction, or emotion. When unobserved, it dictates life. The Stoic trains to pause between event and response, between trigger and movement. This pause is power. It is the command post of the mind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. The Stoic translates this into action. Every thought must report to duty. Every impulse must be inspected before execution. The untrained mind believes every thought is truth. The disciplined mind sees thoughts as proposals, not commands. To observe a thought without acting on it is a weapon in itself. Most people live as if every thought were an order. The Stoic learns to read the battlefield map of the mind, to see the traps and diversions that thoughts lay. The mind tries to convince, seduce, and confuse. It offers comfort disguised as surrender. The Stoic refuses softness. Victory demands hardness of attention. Doubt is a corrosive gas on this battlefield. It does not shout, it seeps. It infiltrates intention, corrodes action, weakens belief. Doubt is born from the desire to control what cannot be controlled. The Stoic recognizes this pattern and neutralizes it by shifting command back to the present. Epictetus taught that freedom is achieved by disregarding what lies beyond our control. To win the mental war is to cease fighting phantom enemies and confront only what is real. Fear is another weapon of the mind against itself. It paralyzes by prediction. It builds futures that do not exist and defends against attacks that never arrive. The Stoic dissolves fear through perspective. Every situation is stripped of illusion and seen for what it is, neutral. Fear has power only when the mind assigns meaning to the unknown. In the quiet of reason, fear collapses. What remains is clarity, a clear field ready for disciplined movement. The Stoic trains to be a strategist. Every mental disturbance is mapped, every recurring pattern is studied. The Stoic does not hate the enemy. The Stoic studies it. Anger, anxiety, envy and lust are recognized as parts of the same machine, the undisciplined mind seeking escape. When one understands the machine, one can disassemble it. The Stoic learns the architecture of thought to dismantle it and rebuild it in alignment with nature and reason. Awareness becomes the scout on this battlefield. It moves silently, detects intrusion, and reports the movement of mental forces. The unaware mind is like an unguarded city, open to invasion from any direction. Awareness patrols the perimeter of thought. It senses emotional shifts, tracks reactions, and intercepts impulsive attacks before they reach command. Awareness requires patience, and patience requires training. To observe without judgment is not weakness, but precision. The disciplined mind is forged through repetition. Every day becomes an exercise in fortification. Thoughts are reviewed, reactions studied, triggers understood. The Stoic builds systems of control not through suppression, but through understanding. Suppression is brittle, understanding is unbreakable. What is understood cannot manipulate. The Stoic converts knowledge into armor. Noise is the modern soldier's downfall. The more the mind consumes, the weaker it becomes. The Stoic retreats into silence not to escape the world, but to sharpen perception. In silence, thoughts reveal their nature. Some are loyal, others are traitors. Silence is the interrogation room of the mind. In it, false beliefs confess and are expelled. The war in the mind is continuous. There is no final victory, only enduring command. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Each day, the Stoic chooses the color of discipline. The mind left unattended decays into chaos. The mind trained daily becomes order itself. The Stoic understands that discipline is not about suppression, but about alignment. Every action, every thought, every breath is brought under the rule of reason. The undisciplined seek peace by eliminating difficulty. The Stoic finds peace by mastering difficulty. To win the war in the mind is to stop expecting ease. Conflict is natural. Peace is not the absence of battle. It is command during it. The Stoic learns to remain calm amid storm, composed amid crisis. The disciplined mind does not resist the storm. It becomes the eye of it. To be a Stoic is to stand at the gate of one's own mind and guard it against invasion. No external enemy can harm a mind that governs itself. The war is internal, and so is victory. The greatest empire is to rule oneself. The internal enemy is the most dangerous force a person will ever face. It speaks in your own voice, it uses your own memories, it moves beneath awareness. The Stoic learns early that no opponent is as cunning as the one hidden within. fear, desire, comparison, anger, and weakness. Each disguises itself as thought. They do not announce themselves as enemies. They arrive as logic, justification, emotion, and instinct. To win the war in your mind, you must expose them as imposters. Fear is the first traitor. It poses as caution, as reason, as preparation. It whispers what could go wrong, how others will judge, what might fail. It does not stop events from happening. It stops life from being lived. The Stoic disarms fear by dissection. Marcus Aurelius instructed himself to look at things as they truly are, to strip them of illusion. Fear feeds on imagination. When confronted by reason, it dissolves. Each fear, reduced to its facts, loses shape and vanishes into clarity. Comparison is the second infiltrator. It turns the mind outward and away from command. The Stoic understands that envy is slavery, judgment anchored in the lives of others. Comparison replaces reality with measurement, self with shadow. The Stoic answers comparison with presence. What another possesses is not within control. The disciplined mind withdraws from illusion and returns to what can be governed: its own actions, thoughts, and standards. Anger is the most visible weapon of the internal enemy. It is quick, loud, and righteous in disguise. Anger claims to defend the self, but in truth, it erodes it. Seneca wrote that anger is a brief madness. It clouds judgment, blinds reason, and leaves the mind defenseless. The Stoic trains to intercept anger at its spark before it becomes flame. When insult arrives, the Stoic asks, "Is this under my control?" The answer is always no. Control is the measure of every emotion. Desire is the most seductive of the enemy's forms. It does not threaten, it tempts. It convinces the mind that fulfillment lies in acquisition, pleasure, or validation. Desire enslaves through reward. The Stoic answers with restraint, not denial. Restraint is command. When one learns to want less, one gains more power over the self. Epictetus warned that freedom is won by disregarding what lies beyond our control. The Stoic keeps desire under discipline, never letting appetite dictate direction. Weakness is the final and most patient adversary. It waits in comfort, in ease, in hesitation. It thrives when effort is postponed. Weakness feeds on indulgence, disguising itself as rest. The Stoic destroys weakness by work. Every act of discipline sharpens command. Every repetition strengthens resolve. Strength is not natural. It is cultivated through the repeated act of overcoming. The internal enemy does not attack once. It returns daily, altering form. Some days it appears as fatigue, others as doubt, sometimes as ambition disguised as pride. The Stoic remains aware that the mind can betray its own cause. The war in the mind is fought not by destruction, but by exposure. Awareness itself is the weapon. Once seen clearly, the enemy loses the ability to command. Perception is the Stoic's field intelligence. How events are seen determines how they are felt. A single thought can transform pain into indifference, chaos into structure. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things, but by their opinions about them. The internal enemy manufactures those opinions and disguises them as truth. To counter this, the Stoic questions every perception. Is this fact or fabrication? This act of questioning reclaims authority over thought. Illusion is the internal enemy's terrain. It builds false narratives, stories of injustice, stories of inadequacy, stories of failure. The mind, when undisciplined, believes these stories and lives inside them. The Stoic refuses narrative control to the imagination. Facts are neutral, interpretation is optional. By removing story, reality becomes manageable. The mind cannot be conquered when it remains loyal to truth. Pain, too, is manufactured in the mind. Events do not wound, interpretation does. The Stoic endures not because pain is absent, but because perception is trained. When hardship arrives, the Stoic does not ask why, but how to endure it well. This shift from complaint to command transforms suffering into strength. Seneca said, "To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength." The Stoic becomes untouchable not through avoidance, but through mastery of interpretation. Every emotion carries a disguise. Fear pretends to be foresight. Anger pretends to be courage. Desire pretends to be purpose. Weakness pretends to be peace. The Stoic's task is to unmask each. The untrained mind follows emotion. The disciplined mind questions it. When emotion is stripped of disguise, it reveals its intent to pull command away from reason. Awareness restores hierarchy. Emotion becomes servant, not ruler. The Stoic does not destroy emotion. They assign it to duty. Fear becomes alertness. Anger becomes focus. Desire becomes motivation. Weakness becomes reminder. The internal enemy can be converted into strength through redirection. To command the mind is not to silence it, but to deploy it. The disciplined person uses emotion as energy under control. Power is not absence of fire, it is mastery of flame. Self-deception is the enemy's highest art. It convinces the mind that weakness is compassion, indulgence is healing, surrender is peace. The Stoic cuts through these lies with honesty. Brutal clarity is mercy. The mind cannot heal under illusion. To win the war, one must tell the truth, even when it shatters comfort. Truth purifies thought. Falsehood corrupts it. Resistance will disguise itself as fatigue, as logic, as care for others. It will say, "Rest, you've done enough." It will say, "You deserve this." It will say, "Just once." The Stoic hears the voice but does not obey. The disciplined mind distinguishes command from suggestion. To act only on reason is the mark of sovereignty. Awareness deepens through discipline. The Stoic observes internal movement as one would observe a battlefield from a height. They see thoughts forming, emotions marching, impulses gathering. The untrained mind fights blind. The Stoic commands with vision. Distance brings control. Detachment allows accurate strike. Without emotion clouding the view, every decision becomes clear. The internal enemy will attempt to ally with comfort. Comfort makes the mind soft, the will dull. The Stoic keeps a portion of hardship in life as training. Cold, silence, solitude, exertion. These are drills for the mind. They remind the self that control is earned daily. Ease is the soil where the enemy grows. Difficulty is the forge where the Stoic sharpens. Every day the Stoic wakes to battle. The field is invisible, but the struggle is real. Fear tries to enter through thought. Desire tries to pull through longing. Weakness tries to whisper permission. Each must be confronted with the same command. You do not rule here. The mind obeys reason, not emotion. The Stoic holds the throne of thought with quiet authority. The war in the mind is won by exposure. The moment an emotion is seen clearly, its power breaks. The internal enemy thrives only in the dark. Light is discipline. Light is awareness. The Stoic carries that light at all times. When anger rises, they shine it. When doubt grows, they examine it. When fear speaks, they listen, but do not bow. Mastery is vigilance without end. To conquer the internal enemy is not to destroy it, but to know it fully. Knowledge ends deception. The Stoic studies the self until nothing remains hidden. Then the mind is not divided against itself. It becomes unified, ordered, obedient to reason. This is victory, a mind that serves its owner, not one that enslaves. The war continues each day, but command remains unbroken. The Stoic wins not by force, but by control. Command is the highest form of freedom. To rule the mind is to rule all that follows. The Stoic views the self as a structured state, a hierarchy where reason is the sovereign, and all emotions, impulses, and thoughts serve beneath its order. Without command, there is confusion. Without structure, there is revolt. The war in the mind cannot be won through emotion or reaction. It is won through governance, through the disciplined rule of one's own faculties. Every stronghold begins with command of attention. The Stoic knows that attention is the currency of power. Whatever captures it gains influence. The modern world is built to seize this resource, to distract, to fracture, to scatter. The Stoic withdraws attention from noise and reclaims it as personal territory. To focus deliberately is to restore order. Every moment of focus is a fortification. Every act of presence reaffirms control. The mind cannot be directed outward and governed inward at the same time. Emotional neutrality is not detachment, it is balance under pressure. The Stoic trains to respond, not react. When emotion rises, reason must remain seated upon the throne. The disciplined mind observes emotion as weather, transient, passing, unable to alter command unless invited. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The Stoic ensures that color is calm, composed, and deliberate. Neutrality is the foundation upon which all judgment rests. Deliberate response is the mark of mastery. Between stimulus and action exists a gap, a pause where command decides the course. The undisciplined fill that gap with impulse. The Stoic fills it with thought. To pause is to reassert power. Every reaction postponed becomes a victory. Control is not absence of feeling, but the ability to select which feelings are permitted to act. This discipline transforms chaos into order and reaction into strategy. The Stoic evaluates every event through a single question. Is this within my control? This question is the seat of command. What lies beyond control is removed from judgment. What lies within becomes the arena of effort. The mind is not built to command the external world, it is built to command itself. When this hierarchy is honored, peace follows naturally. When it is violated, confusion reigns. Psychological sovereignty begins when control is clearly defined. To build this inner hierarchy, the Stoic divides the self into command layers. At the highest sites reason, the governor of decisions. Beneath it lies will, the executor of reason's orders. Below that lies emotion, the energy of the system, to be directed, not obeyed. At the base lies impulse, raw signal, immediate and unfiltered. The mind loses power when these layers are reversed, when impulse rules reason. The Stoic restores the natural order. Reason commands, emotion supports, will enforces, impulse obeys. Strategic Stoic reasoning is the architecture of control. It functions like a command center, interpreting reality without distortion. Every perception is analyzed, every judgment audited. The Stoic uses logic as a weapon, stripping events of illusion and viewing them through their essential nature. To see clearly is to command effectively. Confusion is the enemy's advantage. Clarity is the Stoic's shield. Psychological sovereignty means the mind governs itself without rebellion. No thought moves unexamined, no emotion acts unpermitted. Sovereignty is not rigidity, it is precision. The Stoic does not suppress the mind, they train it to obey. When reason rules, thought flows in harmony. The mind becomes an organized state, loyal to its sovereign principle. The Stoic does not negotiate with emotion, they legislate it. To maintain command, one must practice order daily. The Stoic begins each day with preparation, a mental assembly where orders are set. They remind themselves of what is within control and what is not. They visualize resistance, interruptions, and obstacles. This rehearsal creates readiness. When events occur, they are already anticipated. Nothing surprises command. Seneca called this premeditation of adversity a shield against shock. The disciplined mind does not react to the world, it receives it. Control of attention creates silence. In that silence, command becomes audible. The Stoic spends time in solitude not to escape the world, but to listen to thought clearly. In stillness, the chain of command strengthens. Every thought is reviewed, every motive examined. Silence reveals whether the mind serves reason or ego. To rule oneself requires frequent inspection. The Stoic is both commander and observer. When emotion and reason conflict, the Stoic does not choose sides. They restore order. Emotion reports data. Reason interprets it. Anger signals violation. Fear signals risk. Desire signals want. Each message is noted, but none dictate policy. Command decides which information is actionable. This is internal diplomacy, a government of self where every voice is heard, but only reason decides. The Stoic understands that control is a process, not an event. The mind must be trained through habit. Every repetition of restraint strengthens command. Every time the Stoic endures without complaint, resists without suppression, or acts without impulse, the structure solidifies. Command becomes identity. Discipline ceases to be effort. It becomes nature. Psychological sovereignty is the antidote to chaos. The world will always present disorder, crisis, noise, conflict, change. The Stoic's task is not to eliminate them, but to remain unmoved. A commander's worth is proven under fire. In pressure, the Stoic remains centered. The more turbulent the environment, the more still the command. Stillness is strength in motion. The Stoic knows that control begins where reaction ends. The untrained mind believes control means force. The Stoic sees control as flow, the alignment of reason with reality. When perception matches truth, resistance disappears. What remains is direction. The Stoic does not force command upon the mind. They earn it through consistency and clarity. To control thought, one must first observe it without judgment. Every decision is a test of command. The Stoic does not act from emotion or popularity. They act from alignment. When choice aligns with principle, the mind remains sovereign. When choice bends to impulse, sovereignty weakens. Command is the discipline of alignment. To maintain it is to keep the empire of self unbroken. The disciplined mind separates itself from noise by creating internal order. Thoughts are filed by relevance, emotions by function, actions by purpose. The Stoic treats the mind like a state that must be governed efficiently. No wasted effort, no needless reaction, no indulgent thought. Efficiency in thought produces purity in action. The fewer wasted movements within, the greater precision without. Every human carries within them both a ruler and a rebel. The ruler seeks discipline, clarity, and reason. The rebel seeks comfort, indulgence, and distraction. The Stoic's role is to strengthen the ruler until rebellion has no foothold. Each act of command weakens the insurgency within. With time, rebellion becomes loyalty. The once chaotic mind becomes a structured ally. To rule the mind is to live intentionally. Intentional living is the translation of Stoic governance into daily action. Every choice is measured, every response deliberate, every word considered. This deliberate pattern shapes reality. The Stoic does not seek perfection but control. To control thought is to design fate. The undisciplined drift, the disciplined direct. Command without awareness decays into tyranny. Awareness without command decays into weakness. The Stoic unites both. Power guided by perception, perception strengthened by power. When the two operate as one, the mind achieves total coherence. This is psychological sovereignty, a state where thought, emotion, and action operate as one organism serving the same principle. The mind under command no longer fears the external world. Events occur, people change, outcomes shift. None threaten the inner hierarchy. The Stoic stands firm within their internal structure. The world cannot disorder what is already ordered within. Marcus Aurelius called this inner citadel the refuge of reason. Within it, all is governed. Within it, all is calm. The war in the mind is not endless chaos when command is established. It becomes an ordered operation, every thought a soldier, every emotion a message, every decision a maneuver. The Stoic does not fight against the mind, but directs it. Control becomes composure. Governance becomes peace. Victory is not in suppression, but in structure. The Stoic wins by ruling the empire within. Awareness is the Stoic's most refined weapon. It is silent, invisible, and precise. It does not attack, yet it neutralizes every attack. The untrained mind reacts. The disciplined mind observes. In that observation lies strength. The Stoic understands that nothing external can harm the one who governs perception. To see clearly is to stand beyond manipulation. The disciplined mind uses awareness not as escape, but as control. To win the war in the mind, one must first see the battlefield. Awareness illuminates the terrain. Each thought, impulse, and emotion exposed under the clear light of consciousness. Most live in darkness, acting before seeing, reacting before thinking. The Stoic slows perception. Observation precedes movement. This is not passivity, it is precision. Awareness turns chaos into data. The one who observes accurately cannot be deceived by appearance. Detachment is the armor of awareness. It does not mean indifference, it means clarity untouched by impulse. The Stoic separates what happens from what is felt. Emotion is recognized, not obeyed. When anger rises, it is seen as a signal of perceived injustice. When fear surfaces, it is seen as anticipation of loss. When desire burns, it is seen as a pull toward illusion. Awareness disarms these emotions by naming them without merging with them. The observer remains sovereign. Seneca taught that to be angry is to let another's fault control your mind. Awareness prevents this surrender. When insult comes, the Stoic watches the emotion arise like smoke, visible, temporary, without authority. To see anger clearly is to weaken it. Reaction thrives on blindness. Awareness denies it fuel. The Stoic's awareness turns every potential outburst into study, every disturbance into data. Awareness is both shield and sword. As shield, it protects against impulse. As sword, it cuts through illusion. The Stoic sharpens it daily through reflection, silence, and stillness. Each moment of awareness strengthens command. Awareness does not eliminate emotion, it governs it. The difference between the untrained and the Stoic is not emotion's absence but its management. Awareness directs, filters, and transforms. Observation without judgment is the essence of mastery. The Stoic watches events unfold without attaching narrative. When good fortune arrives, it is observed as change. When misfortune strikes, it is observed as opportunity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that things themselves are indifferent. Only perception gives them weight. To see without labeling is to remove suffering from experience. Awareness dissolves distortion. The Stoic cultivates awareness through deliberate practice. Each day contains moments designed for inspection, pauses where thought is reviewed. Before speech, awareness asks, is this necessary? Before action, awareness asks, is this aligned? Before judgment, awareness asks, is this true? This self-inquiry forms the rhythm of mental governance. The mind ceases to drift and begins to direct. Awareness converts emotion from master to messenger. Fear becomes alertness, anger becomes boundary, sadness becomes reflection. When emotion is seen clearly, it transforms into information. The Stoic receives it, interprets it, and moves on. Nothing lingers longer than it is useful. Awareness grants freedom from emotional inertia. Each feeling passes like weather across a steady sky. The untrained mind believes awareness is passive. The Stoic knows it is active vigilance. To remain aware requires endurance. Awareness must be maintained under pressure, fatigue, and chaos. The battlefield of the mind is loud. Awareness remains silent but alert. The Stoic trains this through discipline, periods of silence, observation of thought, and reflection upon reaction. The longer awareness remains unbroken, the greater the control. Awareness is not achieved through escape from life, but immersion in it with clarity. The Stoic observes even in action, holding attention steady while the body moves. This dual state, acting and observing, creates precision. Every motion becomes deliberate. Every word passes through the filter of reason. The Stoic's presence is complete. Their actions carry weight because they are born of consciousness, not impulse. Awareness exposes false identity. The mind often mistakes passing thoughts for the self. It says, I am angry, I am afraid, I am lost. The Stoic sees these as transient events, not definitions. The self is the observer, not the content observed. When awareness deepens, identity detaches from thought. The result is liberation. The Stoic becomes the watcher behind the mind, untouched by its storms. In this position, control becomes natural. One no longer forces discipline, it arises from clarity. When awareness governs, decisions align with reason automatically. Impulse fades because it is seen before it acts. Reaction dissolves because it is observed before it manifests. The Stoic's mind becomes transparent. Nothing hides, nothing manipulates. Awareness turns the unconscious into command. Awareness is the bridge between thought and action. The untrained cross it in haste and fall. The Stoic walks it slowly, observing both sides. This pause between perception and movement is the domain of wisdom. Every mistake begins with a lapse in awareness. Every victory begins with its presence. Awareness lengthens that crucial pause where command is re-established. To cultivate awareness, the Stoic removes noise. Excess speech, distraction, and emotional indulgence weaken perception. Silence strengthens it. Stillness refines it. Reflection tests it. Awareness grows through subtraction. The fewer disturbances allowed, the sharper perception becomes. The Stoic silence is not withdrawal. It is training. Awareness creates distance without division. The Stoic stands near experience but not consumed by it. They feel fully yet are not controlled by feeling. This balanced position is power. To experience life deeply while remaining undisturbed is the highest art of Stoicism. Awareness allows joy without attachment, sorrow without despair, engagement without loss of self. The disciplined mind views awareness as daily labor. It is not a single awakening but a constant watch. The Stoic checks for infiltration, unexamined thoughts, emotional residue, reactive habits. The purpose of awareness is not to analyze endlessly, but to see clearly and move cleanly. Once the moment is understood, action follows without confusion. Awareness streamlines thought. When awareness becomes constant, peace emerges naturally. The mind no longer needs to defend or justify. Reality is accepted as it is. The Stoic understands that events are neither blessings nor curses, they simply are. Awareness removes interpretation, leaving clarity. In this state, the mind is unassailable. Nothing external can penetrate the calm of understanding. The awareness of mortality strengthens this clarity. Remembering that life is finite dissolves trivial agitation. Perspective sharpens. What matters becomes obvious. The Stoic does not waste awareness on what will vanish. Attention is directed toward what endures: character, virtue, command. Awareness of impermanence purifies focus. Awareness is a shield that cannot be taken and a sword that never dulls. It is both defense and strategy. Every disturbance faced with awareness becomes weaker. Every thought examined loses its power to deceive. The Stoic's awareness is both map and compass, revealing terrain and direction. When awareness leads, the mind follows without resistance. Winning the war in the mind requires total vigilance. The enemy thrives in distraction, illusion, and blindness. Awareness eliminates all three. It sees every movement of the enemy before attack. It anticipates and adjusts. It governs perception, and through perception governs life. The Stoic carries awareness like a lantern in the storm, revealing the truth behind every shadow. The disciplined practice of awareness is endless. It refines thought, sharpens response, and deepens peace. The Stoic becomes aware of awareness itself, conscious of consciousness, awake within every moment. From that height, all things are seen, and nothing can command without permission. Awareness becomes sovereignty. The war in the mind ends not through conquest, but through clarity. Mental fortitude is the architecture of the unbreakable self. It is built through discipline, layer by layer, until no circumstance can breach it. The Stoic constructs this fortress not from avoidance, but from endurance. Every hardship, every silence, every repetition becomes a stone in its foundation. The mind, when properly trained, ceases to fracture under pressure. It hardens into principle. It becomes a structure through which no weakness can pass. Fortitude begins with repetition. The Stoic understands that resilience is not born in crisis, but forged through daily rigor. Every act of restraint, every moment of focus, every pause before reaction strengthens the internal frame. The untrained mind bends to impulse. The disciplined mind repeats discipline until it becomes instinct. Repetition transforms will into nature. What once required effort becomes effortless. Silence is the mortar of this architecture. In silence, the Stoic listens to the movements of thought and the echoes of emotion. Silence reveals the strength of structure and the cracks in its walls. It is in quiet reflection that the Stoic identifies weakness and reinforces it. To remain silent in a world that demands reaction is the highest form of control. Silence hardens thought into clarity. Reflection is the blueprint of fortitude. Each day, the Stoic reviews their actions, words, and thoughts, assessing alignment with principle. This examination prevents decay. Without reflection, repetition becomes mechanical. With reflection, it becomes conscious construction. The Stoic studies not to judge, but to strengthen. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom and failure into instruction. Endurance is the weight that tests the structure. Pressure reveals whether principles are real or imagined. The Stoic welcomes hardship as validation. When pain arrives, the Stoic stands unmoved, not out of denial, but understanding. Adversity is the architect's stress test. What breaks reveals what must be rebuilt stronger. Seneca wrote that no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Consistency turns philosophy into character. Fortitude is not a moment of bravery, but a pattern of endurance. Each day the Stoic repeats the same disciplines: rising early, restraining excess, speaking with precision, acting with intention. These repetitions form the unseen framework of power. The world sees composure. Beneath it lies 1,000 repetitions of control. Mental strength grows through exposure, not shelter. The Stoic seeks challenge deliberately. Cold, fatigue, solitude, and rejection are teachers. Each teaches the mind to remain calm under discomfort. The Stoic does not chase pain, but does not flee it. Endurance is both shield and sculptor. Every difficulty faced consciously reshapes the mind toward permanence. Fortitude demands alignment between thought and action. When belief and behavior diverge, the structure weakens. The Stoic ensures that what they think, they do. What they say, they mean. This unity of conduct forms the steel of the self. The mind gains integrity when its principles are tested and upheld. Each act of alignment adds weight to character until it becomes unshakable. To endure is not to suffer in silence, but to stand in understanding. The Stoic does not curse misfortune. They observe it as part of the universal order. What is meant to happen happens, and strength lies in response, not resistance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The Stoic uses this truth as cornerstone. The obstacle is the raw material of fortitude. Fortitude is sustained by rhythm. Discipline without rhythm becomes rigid. Rhythm transforms repetition into flow. The Stoic's life follows cycles of exertion and restoration, moments of silence, reflection, and focus repeated daily. This rhythm stabilizes the mind, creating harmony between intensity and recovery. Strength maintained through rhythm outlasts strength built through bursts. The Stoic trains to detach from outcome while mastering process. Fortitude is process mastery, enduring without the need for immediate reward. The untrained mind seeks comfort in completion. The disciplined mind finds fulfillment in endurance itself. The Stoic builds without demand for recognition. What is internal needs no witness. The reward is sovereignty over reaction. Mental fortitude thrives on minimalism. Excess weakens structure. The Stoic reduces desires, possessions, and dependencies until only what is essential remains. Each removed dependency strengthens the framework. Freedom is not gained by accumulation, but by subtraction. Simplicity is structural integrity. The fewer moving parts, the harder it is to break. Self-discipline is the scaffolding of this architecture. It supports construction until strength becomes self-sustaining. Discipline begins externally, habits, rituals, routines, and gradually moves inward until it governs thought itself. When discipline reaches the mind, it becomes identity. The Stoic no longer forces control, they are control embodied. Fortitude requires the endurance of solitude. In solitude, distractions vanish and reality remains. The Stoic confronts the self without disguise. Many fear solitude because it exposes the fragility of their structure. The disciplined mind seeks it because it strengthens alignment. To be alone without anxiety is a sign of internal stability. The Stoic accepts that fortitude is never complete. The structure evolves with life. Each stage brings new forces of erosion, aging, loss, fatigue, uncertainty. The Stoic meets them as builders meet storms, with maintenance, inspection, and repair. Mental fortitude does not decay when maintained. It grows harder with each restoration. Patience is the slow architect. Nothing strong is built quickly. The Stoic measures time in progress, not pace. Endurance is not delay, it is sustained direction. To remain steady when results are unseen is the mark of maturity. The world rewards quick victories. The Stoic builds permanence. What lasts is built slowly and deliberately. Every morning, the Stoic begins again. The structure of yesterday is inspected today. Faults are fixed before they expand. This daily renewal prevents collapse. Fortitude is not arrogance, it is vigilance. The mind that watches itself never weakens. The Stoic knows that strength uninspected becomes weakness disguised. The discipline of fortitude is rooted in purpose. A structure without purpose decays into decoration. The Stoic builds not for praise but for service, to live rightly, to act justly, to remain unshaken amid chaos. Purpose gives endurance meaning. When effort aligns with reason, suffering transforms into construction. Every hardship becomes material for mastery. To build an unbreakable mind is to commit to constant construction. The Stoic does not wait for calm. They build it. They do not hope for peace. They train it. Fortitude is built when repetition becomes ritual, silence becomes clarity, reflection becomes correction, and endurance becomes identity. The war in the mind is won not through battle, but through building. The Stoic's mind stands like a citadel, silent, strong, and functional. Inside, thoughts move with order, emotions serve in balance, reason rules with steadiness. Storms may rage, but the walls hold. This is the architecture of mental fortitude: calm under pressure, clarity under confusion, endurance under strain. Built from discipline, maintained by awareness, and reinforced by reflection, it becomes a permanent defense. The unbreakable mind is not invincible because it avoids pain, but because it absorbs it. Every wound becomes a lesson, every trial a reinforcement. The Stoic learns to transform impact into strength. Like tempered steel, the mind grows stronger through heat. Fortitude is forged, not granted. The architecture of mental fortitude represents the Stoic's victory in the long war. It is the culmination of all prior disciplines: awareness, control, restraint, and endurance, converging into one indestructible structure. The Stoic becomes immovable, not by rejecting life, but by integrating it completely. The war in the mind ends where fortitude begins. From this point onward, nothing external commands the internal. The structure stands complete, eternal in principle, unwavering in command. Victory to the Stoic is not conquest over others, but dominion over the self. The war in the mind does not end through surrender or exhaustion. It ends when battle becomes rhythm, when conflict becomes command. The Stoic does not seek escape from life's struggle, but mastery within it. Calm becomes the new expression of strength. Silence becomes strategy. The enemy is not destroyed, it is disciplined. The mind ceases to fight against itself, and instead moves as one, unified under reason. The Stoic victory is an equilibrium. It is the steady pulse beneath turbulence. It is the calm that endures when events shift and fortune reverses. The Stoic no longer flinches at chaos. They stand still as the storm turns around them, aware that nothing external can touch what is governed within. Marcus Aurelius wrote that nowhere can a man find a quieter retreat than in his own soul. This retreat is not isolation, it is sovereignty. It is the citadel that stands unmoved while the world burns and rebuilds. Mastery is not the end of battle, but its transformation. The Stoic learns to move through conflict without disturbance. They no longer resist events, nor do they yield to them. They flow with order, acting with clarity. This balance is the highest form of command. It is not weakness masked as peace, but control expressed as composure. To remain stable in motion is victory. To act without disorder is triumph. The Stoic victory is the full alignment of thought, emotion, and action. Nothing internal contradicts itself. Reason leads, emotion follows, and action obeys. The divided mind collapses into unity. The Stoic's mind no longer fragments under pressure because its parts no longer compete. Each faculty fulfills its role. This harmony is power refined beyond aggression. The mind, once chaotic, now operates with precision. Thoughts arise, are examined, and pass. Emotions surface, are felt, and settled. Desires appear, are measured and released. Nothing lingers ungoverned. The Stoic becomes architect and ruler of this system. Victory means the self obeys itself. Command is complete. The Stoic no longer seeks peace. They are peace functioning under reason. This is not a fragile calm, but a disciplined equilibrium. It does not depend on comfort. It is forged through adversity, maintained through awareness, and strengthened by endurance. The Stoic understands that life will continue to send storms. The difference now is that storms no longer disrupt command. The war in the mind becomes daily training, not daily turmoil. Adversity no longer threatens identity, it affirms it. Equilibrium is achieved when reaction no longer rules response. The Stoic feels emotion, but does not act blindly. They act with precision born of awareness. This control does not harden the mind, but refines it. The Stoic moves through pressure with grace, through noise with silence. The result is dominion, power expressed through restraint. True victory is quiet. Silence itself becomes a weapon. It is the field upon which reaction dies. In silence, the Stoic observes, calculates, and chooses. Those ruled by impulse speak to fill space. Those ruled by command use silence to control it. Every pause becomes strategy. Every delay becomes dominance. In silence, clarity expands. The Stoic does not rush to act because their strength lies in the decision, not the display. Calm is no longer a reaction to peace, but an act of power in chaos. To remain composed under tension is to hold authority over circumstance. The untrained mind collapses when plans fail. The Stoic adjusts, rebuilds, and advances. They understand that control is internal and stability is self-created. Calm is command in motion. The Stoic victory turns pain into propulsion. Suffering loses its ability to paralyze. Every hardship becomes material for endurance. Every loss becomes a teacher. The Stoic extracts order from difficulty and meaning from pain. To win the war in the mind is to remove the concept of defeat entirely. There are only lessons, only movement, only growth. Dominion begins when reaction becomes choice. Freedom is not the absence of constraint. It is the ability to decide with clarity despite constraint. The Stoic has learned to choose under pressure. Choice replaces impulse. Decision replaces reaction. This is mastery of will, sovereignty that cannot be taken by any external force. When the will is trained, no event can enslave it. The Stoic victory is a state of inner empire. Within it, each domain, thought, desire, emotion, action, functions in harmony. The ruler is reason. The citizens are disciplined habits. The laws are principles that never change. Order sustains itself. The Stoic becomes self-governing, self-correcting, and self-sufficient. Their calm is not passive, it is legislative. Their stillness is not retreat, it is reign. The world will continue to change. People will betray, systems will fail, fortune will reverse. The Stoic does not resist this truth. They absorb it, integrate it, and move forward. The mind under command no longer collapses under shock because it expects the unpredictable. Preparedness becomes serenity. Every possible future has been accepted. Nothing surprises command. The war in the mind once consumed energy. Now it produces it. Where there was once division, there is cohesion. The Stoic draws strength from the same forces that once caused weakness. Discomfort becomes conditioning, solitude becomes insight, failure becomes discipline. Every experience feeds the system. The mind no longer resists life, it refines it. Silence becomes the Stoic's language. It speaks authority without sound. The one who controls their words controls their world. In restraint lies influence. The Stoics' calm unsettles the chaotic because it reflects a power they do not understand. This silence is not emptiness. It is dominance concealed. It is the unspoken declaration that nothing external dictates the internal. Victory is maintenance of command under all conditions. The Stoic can act with clarity in confusion, lead with patience in noise, endure with strength in loss. They no longer chase peace because they carry it. Their equilibrium becomes permanent. What once required effort is now identity. They do not fight to be composed. They are composition itself. The Stoic victory transforms time. Past regrets lose hold, future fears lose influence. Only the present remains sharp and controlled. The mind ceases to drift between what was and what might be. Awareness anchors it in what is. This is the highest form of presence, to live each moment with total command of thought and perception. The Stoic lives here, always alert, always steady. The final form of mastery is quiet strength. It does not announce itself, does not seek validation, does not depend on praise. It operates cleanly, effectively, and invisibly. The Stoics' actions are precise because their mind is still. The world measures power by volume. The Stoic measures it by control. Victory is silent efficiency. Dominion of the self is eternal. It cannot be lost to aging, failure, or loss. It endures beyond circumstance because it was built within. The Stoic knows that control of the mind equals control of life. Nothing can enslave a person who commands their perception. The war in the mind ends where mastery begins, where thought obeys principle and emotion obeys reason. To win this war is to no longer call it won. Battle transforms into balance. The Stoic does not wake to conflict. They wake to command. Life remains unpredictable, but the self remains ordered. This is victory, the conversion of chaos into rhythm, of struggle into structure, of noise into silence. The Stoic stands in calm dominion, unbothered, unbroken, unconquered. In this state, peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of strength. The Stoic's calm is not fragile. It is active, controlled, and deliberate. Every movement of thought aligns with reason. Every breath carries composure. The world may test the body, but the mind remains untouchable. The Stoic has won the only war that ever truly mattered, the war within.